innovation is the most critical part if we were to look at sustainability, right? And business is the one which is the sole solution provider when it comes to innovative solutions. You must have noticed that we tabled these reports outside this morning. This is called How India Innovates. It gives you an overview about how India is innovating when it comes to sustainability and inclusive. What it means is that the innovative solutions should be disruptive enough and mass available to the extent that it solves a lot of the sustainability and inclusive development solution challenges of this country. There are technologies available for many of those challenges, but we have to disrupt those technologies and create solutions that work in our environment. Begin with, Shankar, you're from Cummins. You are, in a sense, you're part of a multinational corporation. What we've seen recently is that a lot of R&D centers are being established in India by these multinational companies. You being in India, how do you contribute to the innovative solutions that Cummins provides around the world? So what is, if you can throw some light on that?
Facilitating innovation at Cummins is what I'm being paid for. So that's my day job. So it took me quite a while to figure out what is the right way to go about it. But now I'm a lot more comfortable talking about it now. We are in the process of building a global technology center here in Pune, right in the heart of Pune. And that's going to support the global research and new technology development for Cummins globally. So it's going to be a bunch of engineers and scientists sitting here in Pune who are going to lead the development of critical technologies for Cummins globally. That's a vision that Cummins has for India. And towards that, there are two specific initiatives that I am leading globally. One is called Synthesizing the Future Technology Vision. That is, figuring out what next in terms of technology. The second is, when we do this, just because we are here in India, we don't want to do this alone. We want to really leverage the global technologies and the ideas of people across the globe within Cummins. So the second initiative that I lead is called Seeking Ideas Broadly. In the sense, connect people across businesses, across regions, across functions in each of this business to make sure that everybody gets engaged when you're talking about developing new sustainable technologies. It's not something that happens just within the R&D labs, but something which cuts across all the functions within each one of our businesses. So the focus here is to understand the unique needs of the Indian markets and develop new technologies that will help us to address these needs, rather than repackage the technologies that we have used in mature markets and bring them here. Because that's not going to help us to target these markets. So that's one thing. And in terms of what we need to do differently, based on my experience with working with people here, people come up with great ideas. So we are not limited by the quality of the ideas here, especially within the technology, the R&D space I operate in. People routinely come up with lots and lots of good ideas. But where we lack is our ability to convert these ideas into innovations. That's something we lack fundamentally. For typically 100 good ideas we start with, we end up with less than 2 or 3 innovations that we can translate to. So that's where I would really like to focus. That's what I had done over the last 6 years. I have focused myself to see how we can improve this conversion of ideas to innovation.
Thank you very much, Shankar. Ravi, I'll come to you because I'm very glad that Shankar talked about the processes and everything, but even before I get there, one thing that he mentioned was ideally a 20% conversion rate. Realistically, it's 3%. You are with TQMs, right? And you look at innovations across the Tata Group. We all know that Tata is a lot more than steel. You also make steel, right? And there are lots of innovations. Many of your innovations would also fall into the categorization of SI2. How do you at TQMs, create this culture of innovation? How do you track innovation across the group? How do you measure it? Can you give us your experiences there?
I'll start by saying that our thought process is slightly opposite of what Shankar mentioned. While he says he wants to improve his success rate from 3 out of 100 to 30 out of 100, we don't mind getting 30 innovations, but we have no problem in increasing the base to 1,000 or even 10,000, which means we are happy with 3 out of 100, but our focus is more on increasing the denominator, which is why only 100 ideas, why not 10,000 ideas, when there are 400,000 employees working in Tata Group. So broadly, that's our approach. But to make this happen, that's when we all started the whole program called the Innovista program, which is dominantly, people see it as a rewards and recognition program, but we in Tata Group Innovation Forum, which is the think tank for driving new innovation agenda, we drive it as a method to sort of instill self-confidence amongst Tata managers. Because, and this program has been running for the last 6 years very successfully, I would say. So every year, more than 1,000 teams participate in this program from 80 Tata companies with their own definitions, with their own understanding, and compete with each other. Now, coming to sustainability, these Innovista awards, whatever you can call it awards, but we, as I said, we call it self-confidence. They don't differentiate between the innovation which has come out with or which has brought out huge financial returns vis-a-vis an innovation which has come out with some very sustainable solution. And I would like to take this opportunity to cite an example. I think it was 4 years ago, and as I said, the Tata Innovista starts with 1,000 teams participating, and ultimately only 10 teams win the award, and which is given by the chairman of Tata Group. And I think it was 3 or 4 years ago, a team from Tata Chemicals won the award, and the work that they did was purely sustainable, which means what they did was Tata Chemicals in Mithapur, in Gujarat, when they make soda ash, they sort of throw away their byproduct or waste, so to speak, and it becomes a huge, it's a massive land. And word over, more than around a dozen of the soda ash companies have closed because they have not been able to address this issue of what to do with this waste. And here was a team which worked for 3 years, and ultimately they converted this whole big land of barren land on which they dispose waste into green. And they showed that they can grow vegetables and fruits on that land. And this team actually won the Innovista award 4 years ago. So the point that I'm making is the award process does not differentiate at all between a team which has worked on something which is very innovative and has given huge profits vis-a-vis other innovation which is very sustainable. And similarly for social as well. So once we use this Innovista program to build the self-confidence of employees, we thought that the time is right for giving them some tools and techniques to ideate better, because after all, innovation rests on ideas. So now, currently for the last 2 or 3 years, we have taken the next step forward, logical step, which is how do we enable Tata managers to think of good ideas, more ideas and good ideas and better ideas, and also how to help the senior Tata leaders, the senior Tata managers, to place the bet on the right ideas. So we have an award which is given to teams for making an audacious attempt for innovation. So in the sense that we're trying to give a message that don't hesitate to kill an idea, because killing an idea means you strike your bonus by 50 or 60%, which means you are sitting on a pile of failure or a failure. So nobody wants to sit on a failure, but we're trying to drive this behavior, as I said. Select the ideas which have inherent risk in it, work on it, and if it fails, kill it fast, and there's a chance for you to celebrate as well. So these are the few cultural pillars that we have been working on. If time permits, we can spend some more time. Sachin, I'll conclude by this. Yeah, thanks.
Hari, let me bring you in here at this stage. After all these interactions that we've had with Wipro, one thing that really fascinates me is that how Wipro as a technology company has identified the potential of, in the green growth phase and even in the social innovation space. One of the examples that we mentioned in the report is that you created an IT solution to improve the healthcare delivery system. And that's really, we know the challenges of healthcare delivery in the country. Hari, what is your, you were really challenging, what is the idea of innovations in India? When we say that we need that transformative shift for a big impact for a country like India, what do we qualify as big? What is that transformative shift?
In my view, the entire idea of innovation needs a shift, particularly in the Indian context. The way we look at innovation, the way we define innovation, the way what needs to be innovated, where it needs to be innovated, and how it needs to be innovated also needs a major shift. In my view, this whole innovation bit, the way we are looking at it in India, is more from a Western perspective. There is this mention of we don't have breakthrough innovations that happen in India. I can give you some numbers that get quoted. In India, we filed about 37,000 patents in 2012. California was 31,000. So we aren't innovating, and there aren't breakthrough innovations happening. Let's step back. What's breakthrough innovation? What about if we say that we are incremental in our innovation? Why not look at that as our strength and mainstream jugaad? Create the ecosystem, the framework to mainstream that. Why do I say this, and why do I bring this up here for discussion? Let's look at the two major challenges that are facing us. It's stated in the report: poverty and ecological sustainability. In my view, poverty has to be seen differently today. It's not about providing food, shelter, and the basic necessities. It's about meeting the aspiration of people. So the entire definition of poverty needs to shift, because when you have an increasing divide between the rich and poor, meeting just basic necessities are not going to be adequate. If you don't meet people's aspirations, that's going to be poverty. Let's see what's driving that. By 2020, one of the estimates say that we would have connected devices which are 6 times more than the number of people, right? And the most of innovation, breakthroughs, progress, economic progress is expected to happen in the developing countries. So how do you meet the aspirations of people? Need to be dovetailed into this aspect of how do you address poverty. Second, economic sustainability. Economic sustainability has become ecological sustainability has become an economic imperative to businesses, societies, and nations. So it's no more just about increasing profits. And so if we do not address, take in the context of India, we say that we need to find employment for 500 million that are going to join by 2030, the workforce, right? And if we do not, and in the Indian context, it's services industry that's driving the economic growth, at least as of today. So if we do not fix our cities with the huge amount of urban migration that's going to happen, the so-called demographic dividend will only end up being a demographic disaster. So unless businesses, societies, and nation addresses these issues of sustainability, ecological sustainability, along with social equity, I don't think that we're going to kind of succeed. Okay. Now, it's in this context that I say that businesses will have to redefine what is core to them. That means, if you're going to look at, is it going to be just the core R&D bit? I think that there is going to be a paradigm shift in terms of what is core for business. So can we look at innovative solutions differently? Can we connect all these and then look at a transformational shift? So the argument that I'm making is that you do not have to have large multi-billion-dollar corporations coming out of innovation for transformational shift. Small, local solutions, mainstreamed in our own context, can bring in the big transformational shift.
You spent most of your life, as much as I know you, in working with these local innovators who've created some amazing solutions. And now you are in a role that connects some of these dots and some of the stakeholders that Hari was mentioning, academia, businesses, the other people, social entrepreneurs, and all of those guys. Tell us how you've seen this ecosystem gradually change. I know in 3 years, 4 years, it doesn't change.
I'll mainly talk about the three challenges that the ecosystem face from the angle of startups and social enterprises, because that's where our expertise lie, and that's what we're mainly doing in the private sector development space in GIZ, working mainly in the MSME promotion space. The first challenge is basically from the investment and finance angle. If you are to look at the support structure, the finance support structure for startups and social enterprises in India, we have the government-supported program schemes for promotion of startups, which are mainly technology-oriented. We have the so-called new breed of impact investors, and we have the angel investors also, which is still at a very nascent stage in India. These different groups basically straddles the different phases of stages of the innovation cycle. But the problem is that they work in silos. Even if you look at one group, the government support programs policies, we have schemes from the Ministry of Science and Technology, we have from the Department of Science and Technology, we have from Department of Electronics Information Technology mainly. All of them work in silos. For example, they have, say, funds for supporting incubators and startups, incubatees. Now, one incubator will have, these schemes running, which they have accepted from the Department of Science and Technology and the other ministries, but all of them come in different structures, which means there is no exchange of information, there is no exchange of best practices, even between these different ministries. So that is from the investment and finance angle. The solution would be mainly to find synergy on how these different groups can find synergies and how to work together, and the exchange of best practices. Second, as a developmental organization, we have done a lot of studies, and what we have found out is that there are about 100 business incubators spread across the length and breadth of the country, mainly supported by the Department of Science and Technology. The thing is that there are not enough incubators in the country, and there are not enough incubators for support of social enterprises. I think there are about 5 social enterprise incubators in the country, mainly in Ahmedabad, Mumbai, and Chennai. So some sort of mechanism needs to be developed wherein the incubation space in India can be scaled up. If you are asking the government to do that, I don't think that's possible, and it's not sustainable also. So some sort of public-private partnerships may need to be developed. For example, an example is an incubator in Kerala, which is called Startup Village. Startup Village, yes. This has been promoted by the entrepreneur promoter and a few corporates, plus the Department of Science and Technology. This is one of the best performing incubators in the country. So such sort of mechanisms need to be developed wherein the incubation space in India can be further scaled up.
Thanks very much, Jinsa. One takeaway that I have from this initial inputs from all of you is that we firmly believe that India needs more of sustainable and inclusive innovation, right? The two models of making it big, but as well as having it local solutions and encouraging them need to coexist in the system. And three, we really need to invest a lot in building the risk capabilities of entrepreneurs, of entrepreneurs, of innovators, so that more and more of these ideas fail before they succeed, So I think that's something which is very important. I'm now going to open it to you.
How do you ensure that you get a good idea, you get a great idea, and then how do you ensure that the person who's come up with the idea also has ownership of what happens with the idea going forward? Because persistence and running with the idea also, ownership is important if you have to get the guy to run with the idea and persist with the idea.
We debated about this for a very long while, and this year, so we have been into this for about 6-7 months now, we have a small process in place through which we are able to support this within the organization. So we call it a 4I process, which is identify, investigate, incubate, and initiate. Identify is just telling the people that these are the critical challenges. If you have some ideas, let us know. So identifying those critical opportunity areas and communicating that to people across. And investigate is, once they come up with the ideas may be good, but may not be really complete by itself. So giving them a small seed fund for them to form a cross-functional team. Again, this is important. It's not just like a bunch of only technology people from R&D coming up with the idea. They need to immediately sell this idea to somebody from marketing, somebody from product planning, and form a cross-functional team. And then they come back and pitch the idea, say that we want to work on this for the next couple of months. Do some preliminary investigation and figure out whether it's worth investing on. So we give a small seed money. And then the next 2 months, they work as a cross-functional team, gather a lot of data around this new idea to convince whether it makes sense for a business to invest in. Then comes the incubation, which is a typical proof of concept. Being a technology company, we give a lot of importance on proving the technical feasibility of the idea early on. So this is funding which we give for about a year, where they do rigorous experimentation and show prototypes and demonstrate how the technology works, create some very important intellectual property in those new areas. So all the good early foundational work happens during this phase. This we refer to as incubate. And by the time we reach here, the quantum of funding is also larger, and the clarity about how this idea will be used subsequently is also much better. Then finally, if it survives through all these things, it reaches the initiate phase, where a whole new product development program will be initiated around this new idea.
I like the expression empowerment of innovation. Really attractive. But I find it document something which I want to read to you, and I want to ask the panelists whether you agree with that or you think it's exaggerated. The greatest barrier to innovation in Indian companies is the governance culture. This does not encourage innovation. Senior executives tend to be judgmental and do not encourage new ideas. That's not what I'm saying, that's what the document is saying. Now, do you agree, or is it exaggerated? And the next thing is, there is a missing link between the government, industry, and mind you, and academia. There has to be collaboration between them for business in India to become more innovative. Now, is there any collaboration in academia, any of your organizations? And in what form? And in what way?
Sir, the very fact, right at the onset, what I mentioned was that we are not sitting here satisfied with the way things are. So, that is why I refuse to talk of many good things that we do in our company. We do a lot of good things, lot of good innovation. But certainly, should there be more empowerment for incremental innovation that happens at different parts of the organization and at the margins? Yes, there has to be more empowerment. I was talking of my organization. I believe Wipro empowers hugely. That's my view, because I have seen a couple of others that I work with. Second, so to answer your questions, yes, there has to be more empowerment in the governance structure. Is there enough collaboration? Do we as an organization collaborate? We do. But is it adequate? My candid answer is no. We need to do more.
Sorry, is there any collaboration with the academia?
Yes, sir.
In what form?
So if you're asking a specific question to Wipro, yes, we do collaborate on two fronts with academia. One is with respect to specific issues and questions and innovative answers that we might have to find for a particular business stream. That is one area of collaboration, depending upon which institute has the required capacities.
Yeah, I just want to add on something to that. Our work in India has been centered around the MSME space for a very long time now, a lot of years. So we have interacted with a lot of MSMEs and the business associations. What we have found out is that there is hardly any collaboration between these MSMEs and the academia and the R&D institutes. One possible reason is that these MSMEs are more or less involved in day-to-day struggles. So when they go to the bigger companies, the challenges that they take to the bigger institutes, the challenges that they take are more or less, very incremental sort of challenges, which the bigger institutes say are not being worth pursuing. And the other problem is that the MSMEs refuse to go to the smaller institutes, saying that they do not have the capacities to do whatever challenges that they pose.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. It was a very interesting session. I really enjoyed it, and so I hope all of you did. I just want to sort of do a closed loop and take you back, if you were there in the inaugural session yesterday, that if you are a car manufacturing company, then you have to look at not automotive as your industry, but mobility as your industry. If you are a cement manufacturer, look at adhesive solutions and not just look at cement, making cement all the time. And I'll add to that if you were a steel manufacturer, or if you were looking at the strength of steel, look at the spider, if not the Spider-Man. So thank you very much for staying back with us. I hope you had an interesting session and the entire summit. Thank you very much.